In for Baccarat, and that goes in! Hugo Baccarat gives Flint City a 3-2. Buckley, the ball falls to Buckley. One-on-one with Etheridge. What a save!
Welcome into the first ever MSN All-State Media Day for girls soccer. Jonathan Turner alongside Dan Stickrett.
Ball comes in, a good head! 1-0! Shot, another save from Etheridge! Rebound, and it goes in the back of the net. The Bulldogs up 1-0! Herzma, but then for Vlasma! 3-0! Stewart Heiss with a shot! Upper 90 and in!
Effectively today here on the Michigan Soccer Network, we are launching our new division of player recruitment videos.
Mario Canoe now finds Sock. Finally, Sock's got a left-footed banger. He shoots it! It's in! The Red Hawks equalize!
And welcome back here to week number 3 of the Detroit City FC Recap Show. My name's Jonathan Turner alongside Mr. Neil Rule. Neil, the Detroit City FC's team here is rocking. They are 3-0.
No, absolutely top of the table, tied with Louisville at the top of the Eastern Conference. It's been a dream start for Detroit City FC. Look at what they've done on the road, too. That's the telltale. And I know we'll get into it, and there are some signs. This team is for real. This team is very, very good, and this team's on a heater right now, and they're at the top.
Yeah, coming from behind in their first 3 games, they obviously fell, but they were down early in game number 1 against Colorado, again against Loudoun United, and then here in the third game against Indy 11 in that 24th minute, that goal. But they found a way, that grittiness, that style of play that Detroit City has, come back with an equalizer in the second half, and then the game winner in the 88th minute.
No, and it did follow a formula, certainly, with what they did against Loudoun United, and Here's the deal, John. Let's just cut to the chase this week, all right? Danny Dichio's for real. And you see what happened, and Indy 11 had a very, very good first 30 minutes of that match. And then Danny Dichio started moving the chess pieces around the board, like he did against Loudoun, what we saw him do in Colorado Springs as well, where they were under heavy attack in that match in Colorado Springs. In game, Danny Dichio has proven time and time, and now for a third time again, he's high level, man. He absolutely is, and they got the lay of the land in Detroit City. Look, I mentioned this during the broadcast. I'll mention it again here today. That match against Indy 11. Yes, Indy 11 got the lead and everything like that. After that, it was total domination by Detroit City. And calling that match, you saw this start to play out. They took control of that match in Indianapolis, and they dominated. Any metric you want to do, the possession, the passes, the shots, any angle you want, Detroit City FC was better, and that was a huge, huge win. And more than that, you just got the feeling in the second half. Now, look, you don't want to make this a habit, no doubt about it. You can't keep going to the well where you're down at half going into the second half, but they've done it so far. And they've done very, very well, and they're sitting at the top of the table. But with all that being said, in that match, that was total domination of a second half on the road against an Indy 11 team that has a veteran presence, that's went out into market, brought some veterans in there. And it was a huge win, not because you're at the top of the table, but it's a huge win in that now look at Jonathan, they're 3 weeks in, just 3 matches in. And look, I know that this goes till October. This season is a monster. It goes on forever. But they're already 5 points clear of Indy 11, who, is, again, retooled their roster. They were expecting big, big things, and they're behind the 8 ball now. And Detroit City's created some space early on. It doesn't mean a lot today, but again, I give you the equation like people talk about when you're on vacation. Well, you can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning. Well, you can't be at the top all season long if you don't start it in April, and that's what Detroit City FC's done.
No, and again, it's a perfect analogy of what you just said, and you think about this too. You talk about what it takes to in the long haul, right? What pieces do you have to have in order to have a successful, a strong campaign? And nothing is more crystal clear to me today than it was even last week and the week before that. But was Nate Steinwash between the pipes?
No, and look, this is becoming a broken record, and I've told the production people when I do these games, like, you can cut this audio and save everyone some time. He did it again, and look, that's been the formula. Nate Steinwasher makes 1 to 2 saves that, quite frankly, he shouldn't make. and people will overlook it, and City won and everything like that. And again, I don't know why it is, but it continues to be the case where maybe because Nate doesn't look the part, he's not 6'2" and uber athletic and all that kind of stuff, and maybe he's been a grinder his whole life. Maybe that's why. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, I call a lot of these matches. I call a lot of high-level soccer in America, and I'm telling you this: he's as good as any keeper there is out. He just is, and I'm tired of defending it, and I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna go off the hinge and say I don't understand. Look, it is what it is. Either you believe in him or you don't, and if you don't, then I'm gonna need reasons why you sleep. And quote Jack Harlow: "Why you sleep on him? I need reasons. I need reasons why people are sleeping on Nate Steinwasser, because I don't see why." He makes an incredible save at least once a match. He's one of the best keepers in all the USL. Hard stop, man. Like, I'm tired of defending it, dude, because if you don't, either you're being a hater or you don't get it. Either way, I can't help you anymore. Nate Steinwasser's elite fact.
Is it selfish of us sitting in these chairs and maybe even the fans at home to say that they don't want Nate to leave? Because if you know what I mean, like, it's like, because maybe, okay, well, that's our benefit then, right? Because if maybe the rest of the world doesn't see him the same way that we see him, even though we know he's great, is that maybe selfish of us saying we want him to stay?
No, I mean it does, but you're right though, and it all fits, and I think, like, with Detroit City, it's time to address this as well. Nate's a perfect piece with what fits in with the rest of Detroit City. And look, the Detroit versus everybody thing, is that played out? Is that a little bit of cliche? Yeah, maybe it is, but you know what? Part of it's true as well. And certainly with DCFC and Danny Dichio and previously Trevor James, and you go back through the lineage, there's a culture with Detroit City FC. On the pitch with what they do, in the organization, all of it. There's a culture, and you can't deny it, man. Like, you can't, because it continues to show itself every single time. And that was a culture win at Indianapolis. That was a culture win against Loudoun United. That was a culture win against Colorado Springs. It's a culture that's sitting on the top of the Eastern Conference standings right now, level with Lou City.
No question. Let's get in here to the stats here, the match report from last week's game against Indy 11. And when we look at this, what sticks out to you the most there, Neil, in regard to these stats?
The domination. I mean, look at the domination on the right side. Look at the possession time. Look at the shots. It was just as simple as Detroit City FC dominated that match for 60 minutes. Now, Indy 11, they got the lead, and they played very, very well. And they kind of punched DCFC in the mouth at the beginning of the game. But again, we're seeing a familiar pattern play out with Danny Dichio and with Detroit City, where they come out, they get the lay of the land, they figure it out, then they go to work. And it was very surgical what they did in the second half against Indy 11. And, again, it's one of those things. And look, talent helps too. Ali Kout has been incredible for Detroit City FC. He's been absolutely incredible. And then Maxi Rodriguez, I think, is like the Nate Steinwasser, in the attack, where for whatever reason he probably doesn't get the credit that he deserves. And again, I'm talking nationally. I know City fans and anybody that follows the club, they understand what they have. But nationally, you listen to the pundits and the podcasts and all that kind of stuff. He's not somebody that seems to be top of mind all the time. But his performance in Indy was elite. He was very, very good in that match.
No question about that. As we talked about in the 24th minute, Indy did break the scoreless time and scored a goal. Sebastian Guenzatti scored the goal there in the 24th minute for Indy 11, giving them a 1-0 lead going into the halftime break. And then in the 55th minute, Ali Kout, as you mentioned, notched it up, equalized it. Maxi Rodriguez on the assist.
No, absolutely, and that's what I'm talking about. Just in terms of his midfield play, and Maxi Rodriguez certainly was involved. And if you go back to it too, we talked about Elvis Amo and just how impactful he was against Colorado Springs. Indy 11, by and large, kind of took him out of the match on Saturday, but it didn't matter because then the midfield went to work, and Ali Kout certainly was a factor, and Maxi took over the match as well. That's what I'm talking about when. This match, it's not you bounce back and got lucky and got 3 points. You're noticing a familiar pattern to these games, and they kind of get in and figure it out, And how are we going to take apart this other team that we're playing? All right, they're taking Elvis out of the flow. So the midfield comes in and Maxi steps in and Ali Koo goes to work. There's a repetitive pattern in that they come into these matches and get the lay of the land, figure it out, and then again, absolute domination on the road too. On the road, that's for me the biggest takeaway. The Loudoun United match at home, yeah, the Keyworth fans and the Keyworth environment and stuff like that can get you through. Look at what they've done at Colorado Springs. And remember, too, Sacramento was there the week before. They didn't come out with 3 points. That's Sacramento. I mean, you see what I'm saying here? Like, these are big-time wins in tough places to get 3. There aren't going to be a ton of points. Do me a favor, if everyone can remember this. When the season's over, go look at Colorado Springs' schedule and see how many teams go in there and get 3 points. Then look at Indy 11. See how many teams go in there and get 3 points. There won't be a lot.
No question about that. There will not be a lot as we now look at 88th minute and a perfect ball sent into the box on this one. And you can't say enough about this ball because, again, when I'm watching it on TV like everybody else was watching it on TV, I'm sure that you were thinking the same thing when James Murphy sent a perfect ball into the box, comes back across the 6 and right to there are two players there. Maxi Rodriguez is the one that gets a touch on it, puts it home.
No, and that was a goal that was reminiscent again at the end of Connor Rutz with the Colorado Springs goal, where a team that's on that was a goal where a team that's on the attack and the team that's on the front foot and the team that's dominating that space in the match, those are goals that you see them get. They overwhelmed Indy on that play in particular, certainly in that second half as well. That, to me, watching it, that was kind of a justified result where. And it was gritty, it was grimy. No one's going to make an Instagram reel of that goal, you know what I'm saying, and drop the music behind it and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't matter, man, because it's in there and they have 9 points.
That they do. Let's take a look here at the results as a whole from last weekend. Again, looking at this, North Carolina's coming into town. They won 2-1 over Hartford.
No, I had an opportunity. I called the North Carolina Loudoun United match early on in the season. And in North Carolina, last season, the USL League One champs. Now, roster-wise, they have a very, very good roster. They did not have a, quote, League One roster last season. I mean, they went in. They knew where they were going to end up. They knew that they were going to be on the move to USL Championship, and they've rostered accordingly. And Hartford had some success coming into the season, coming into this point of the season as well. So, again, North Carolina, it's not a League One roster that they have. This is a very veteran-laden roster. They do have some of their components of USL League One. It's almost kind of like it's reminiscent of Detroit City FC when they moved up to USL Championship from NISA, in that there were some spine components that they kept on the roster. North Carolina FC is the same way. That was a nice match for them. Took the L to Loudoun United in the match that I called, but I do have my eye on them because they do have some vets and they have some capability to be a very good team. So we certainly will see that. And keep in mind, too, this Saturday, 2 o'clock, CBS in Detroit. So, again, we'll touch on that, I know, coming up in just a little bit. But, again, a big opportunity for you to check out on linear television on CBS Detroit, 2 o'clock kick against North Carolina. And that's going to be a very, very good match as well.
As we now take a look here at the USL standings, and right there at the top, Louisville City, they're 3-0, and right below them, well, they're at the same. They're the same, right? They're both tied with 9 points. Detroit City FC.
Yep, there it is, and Charleston Battery as well with the 8. But remember, one more match played than Detroit City FC. So, again, going back to it, because this is the order of operations. Pittsburgh certainly going through it right now, and, their roster certainly was gutted. And Albert Dequa moving to Rhode Island, but, it's the way it goes. So, hey, whatever. But with that being said, here's the thing, Jonathan, because this is the order of operations. You got to get yourself in the playoffs. Once you firmly get yourself in the playoffs, then you survey the scene and see where you're at. But look down there around that 7, 8, 9 line. You got Loudoun and Miami and Indy 11. They have 4 points. DCFC's 5 points clear of them, and we just got done with Easter. So, as we saw last season, the season kind of went in waves where City had a good run of form, then they struggled, then they had a good run of form, and then they struggled. These points all count the same right now. And City's building themselves up a nice little treasure chest of points. So that's where you love to see it. 2 of those matches on the road as well. This is a dream start. Like, bottom line, ask any team in USL. They would certainly take this. And Detroit City, couple wins on the road. They're looking very, very good right now.
That they are. As well, now take a look here at the current goal leaders here in the Eastern Conference. Put that on your screen. And, hey, Maxi Rodriguez makes it now. He's got 2 goals on the season, currently sitting 7th in the Eastern Conference. But up top there, Louisville Wilson Harris with 4 goals.
Yep, and again, this is the way that it's been for Detroit City FC. You know, they're not going to have the guy that rolls out and scores 17 goals or 18 goals or anything like that. But that's fine because everything's rolling right now. And yeah, I know Maxi's the one on the board, but Ali Coop, man, is certainly somebody that has been incredible to watch. He's been a perfect fit here with what Detroit City FC is doing, and everyone around him is reaping the benefits.
And Ali Coot is on the attacking side of league leaders for goals. He's got 1 on the season, as well as Connor Rutz, as well as Elvis Amo in there as well as well as Jope. In there as well with 1 goal. So we'll continue to keep an eye on here on the league leaders. But, as we dive into this upcoming week here, this game on Saturday at home, the second home game of the season, as you mentioned, on CBS Detroit, linear TV, a big opportunity for local eyeballs to see what DCFC is all about. This next match is extremely important here. They go into a bye week. And they'll have a break, but they're playing against North Carolina FC, who's 1-1-2.
No, and it is that, too. It's an opportunity where you can kind of empty the cupboard a little bit in this match and maybe go a little bit deeper as far as minutes are concerned with what you're able to do. So everything is on the table for Danny Dichio. And, for North Carolina FC, coming into USL Championship, they're going to get a taste of coming to Keyworth and see what they're all about. But, I mean, it's there for the taking for Detroit City FC. If we're being honest, you can get 4 matches in, which is roughly about 10% of the season. You get a bye. You could be sitting pretty with 12 points there. And North Carolina FC, I think, is another one of those teams that you're going to see in the mix of that playoff line, where you look to continue to just stack points, and you don't want to be involved with that quote-unquote playoff line coming down the stretch of the season. You want your place firmly entrenched so you can line up things the way you want to line them up. And, oh, by the way, you get a win this week, you're sitting at 12 points. You're guaranteed to be at the top of the table heading into the bye week. So it's getting real, folks. It absolutely is. And you've knocked down a couple of big matches on the road where you've gotten the win. So, again, we're going to do this till October, so I'm going to calm down a little bit because this goes for a very, very long time. But still, with all that being said, man, it's time for everyone to get excited, man. And again, CBS, linear, 2 o'clock, opening kick at Keyworth. Get down there. Get down to Keyworth if you can, deadcityfc.com for tickets. So get on down there. If you can't, check it out. And it's a big weekend for USL Championship as well because I called the match against Indy 11. That match was part of the Galazzo coverage for CBS. Detroit City, 2 o'clock, TV 50, on CBS Linear in Detroit. 4 o'clock, USL, a national broadcast, Lou City, who you'll probably want to see, taking on Indy 11 as well. It's a huge, huge weekend for USL Championship, the first ever nationally televised network coverage for USL Championship. You got a kind of a double header there, if you will. So Detroit City fans, rejoice, man, because I always go back to this, Jonathan. I'll never believe this. Every single time this club accomplishes something like this, I'll never believe it from where we started, when we started broadcasting these matches. And it's incredible to be a part of. It's incredible to see. This is what sports fans say they want, right? You say you want an accessible team that you don't have to have a subscription to Bally's or a subscription to this pay-per-view or that pay-per-view to watch it. Here you go, everybody. Like, it's right there for you. Just turn on your TV, stunning high definition, and take in some Detroit City FC soccer, the most accessible team in professional sports.
No question about that. Again, they play this Saturday, April the 6th, 2 p.m. kickoff on CBS Detroit. And we look at the rest of the week's schedule. You mentioned Louisville in there, a 4 p.m. kickoff against Indy 11. Obviously, they sit atop the table as well. That's a very important matchup. Again, the Hartford Athletic taking on Miami at 2 p.m. At Trinity Health Stadium. So a lot of really good matches here coming up this weekend. Hey, I mean, this is the third time we've done this now, Neil. We're starting to get into a bit of a groove here.
No, absolutely. I knew we would. We're doing it now, and people too. Like, if you want to get involved, man, tweet questions. We'll do that. I'll answer questions, anything that you guys have. And I have noticed the increase in traffic and all that, so certainly do appreciate you guys checking it out. And this is why we do this. You know, the Detroit City deserves this. They're a factor. They're at the top of the table, and things are going very, very well.
That they are. If I didn't remind you here earlier, I'm going to remind you now. Subscribe to the platform, Michigan Soccer Network. Make sure that you like and share this with your friends and family. Share this amongst the supporters of Detroit City FC. Obviously, the more eyeballs that we can get on this recap show, the better. Hey, I got some great news, Neil, and I haven't announced this yet, but I'll announce it now. We have an app coming.
Okay.
So an app is coming here. I finished developing it here in the last week, and we're just waiting for both Google and Apple to approve it. But once it is, then you can just watch this on the app.
There you go. We're handing it right there to you. Handing it right there to you.
Right. So we're making everything possible more accessible here at the Michigan Soccer Network. A lot more soccer coming your way. But hey, that's a wrap here of the Week 3 recap show. We'll be back here next week with a recap of the North Carolina FC matchup here at Keyworth from Keyworth on Saturday at 2 p.m.
Absolutely. Let's do it.